I'm Sean Bowes, concert visual designer in Los Angeles, California. Today, we're talking to Romario Rivera, aka RAUXRAUX. He is a VJ, video editor, and part of the Immanent VJ gang. He's been a touring VJ with artists like 12th Planet and performed visuals on major festival stages around the world. He's also a techno producer and holds the title for Busiest VJ of 2020. I just made that up, but I think that's legit. So let's go talk to him. Romario, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for doing this with me.
Hey, thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate that shit, bro.
Hell yeah. So did I miss anything in that intro?
No, you're actually pretty accurate, especially with the Busiest VJ of 2020, man.
Yeah,
that was 2020 was something else, dude. Like I thought
sure.
It was gonna be a good year. I thought it was gonna be pretty busy, but it turned out to be way busier than I had expected, and it's still going right now. So
yeah, I mean it's crazy to think that like a year ago, almost to the day, we were sitting at Drew's spot talking. We had the 12th Planet tour was about to start, and there was rumors of this like weird virus coming over from China, and it might cancel a couple shows for a few weeks or maybe a month or something, and what's going to go on. And then things, yeah, that was a year ago.
Yeah.
It's still going on. It's still affecting the world. But part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you is that though, I'm really impressed with how you're able to stay busy and find success through this year. I think people will be able to learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that. Let's start at the beginning with some basics. Where did you grow up? What were you like as a kid? Were you into any of this stuff? Like what's the origin story of Romario?
No, so pretty much I grew up most of my life over in Highland Park area of Los Angeles, so Northeast LA. Pretty much I'm 25 now, so I'd say about 23 years of my life there. And then first year grew up in the hood, man. I was in Crenshaw in Washington. Then for another year, I lived in South Load actually for a whole year, just on a cattle farm with my pops and my mom and my brother at the time. So yeah, no, that's pretty much how I started out. But to give you sort of an origin story of how I got to what I'm doing now. Well, in middle school, actually, I grew up listening to middle school and elementary school. I grew up listening to a lot of heavy metal. But then one day on MTV, when they used to show music videos, I saw Daft Punk's Technologic, which RIP to Daft Punk. They're not dead, but yeah, you already know what's happened. But yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. It was really a definite blow that hurt hard right to the core, man. But it is what it is. I get you, man. Some artists have to separate. But anyways, yeah, I saw their music video for Daft Punk's Technologic. I'm just like, holy shit, man, this opened an entirely new world for me. Just seeing all the visuals for that whole album, that track specifically, that creepy looking child robot with the members playing guitars next to it. It was such a game changer. It introduced me to the EDM world. That was about third or fourth grade. Then from then on, I just started getting into more of the trance side. Was in Tiesto, literally going to the public library, going to their CD section, looking up all those things, just trying to expand my intellect on EDM. Then little by little, that all just sort of started growing my interest in being a part of the electronic music world. And then now I've realized it's not just EDM, it's the entire music industry. But yeah, no, all of my life I've been heavily involved in music. I started playing violin viola when I was in third grade, started learning piano around middle school, and then even up till college I played violin viola, classically musically trained. And yeah, that's all sort of helped me grow and develop and discipline in music business, not only for the creative side, but also from the business side, because I feel like they go hand in hand. Because the music business, if you want to be in that business, you got to also have an understanding of the art itself. I'm not just there to make money. I'm also there to create an experience, and also create an experience for myself, for people, and for myself. And that's sort of the idea that I always have as VJ now. It's what I think goes well with the music, but also what I think people would think is really trippy or really cool. And so that's sort of how I go about my with my VJ sets and all that stuff as well. So yeah, man, that's just a slight bit of the origin story of
Yeah,
where I
that's
get my
awesome.
creativity and all that, and how it all stemmed out.
Hell yeah. I mean, definitely got to pour one out for Daft Punk and the
Yeah.
OGs. I think a lot of us saw either one of their videos or heard one of their albums or like saw one of their performances and was like, holy shit, this is like,
Yeah.
I need to get involved in this somehow.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and I didn't know that about you, that you are violin viola, classically trained musician. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, dude. No, I used to like with straight up manuscript. I used to like write my shit like by hand on like the stems, the stabs, and the notes and all that shit. And then I realized there's like other programs that can do that easily. I'm just like, all right, fuck it. I'm not gonna do this anymore by hand. But
Nice.
no, it's a pretty awesome like, skill that I've learned and developed over the years. And still to this day, when I'm producing my techno tracks, I still think about melody and harmony, chord progressions, minor and major changes in keys, and all that sort of stuff. I still apply that to this day with my music. And then also every now and then when it comes to VJing, I try to see what can complement something that's completely different from it, but at the same time, not so much, and easily be able to transition, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Having that understanding of music and how music is structured, it definitely helps because you're performing right along with the artist. So you need to
Yeah.
understand where they're going based on where they came from.
Yeah.
Um, let's move a little bit more chronologically. Did you go to school for any of this stuff? I know you went to USC, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. I did go to USC, but I actually studied to be in the music business side. So
Mm,
my goals were actually to like be a agent or a tour manager, even a manager for a couple of artists. But then as I was applying to USC, so originally I attended Cal State Long Beach for a violin and viola performance. Uh, but after 2 years there, all right, a little more backstory. So I played soccer at Cal State Long Beach while majoring in viola performance. And then I was way more dedicated to soccer than I was to my actual career at Cal State Long Beach. So, but one day I got a really bad knee injury playing, and I couldn't play for about 6 months. So then I was just like, okay, what the hell do I do now? Like, I guess I got to focus on my career. And as I moved all my focus from soccer into my major, I was like, this really isn't what I want to do. So I went to my counselor and asked him like, hey, is there any sort of like business classes or like music business like schools that I could potentially transfer to, or classes that I could take here at Castle? I'm just like, no, but there are two other schools if you're planning to transfer. I think now's the best time: USC or Cal State Dominguez Hills. And they're like, screw it, I'm going to apply to USC. And then as I was applying to USC, the chair of the music industry department responded to me, and we were talking, getting to know each other. And then one day he invited me over for a class where he was going to have a guest speaker. That guest speaker happened to be three guys. I believe it was Vivek, Miguel, and somebody else from Production Club.
nice.
And so that's where I got to meet those guys, and I started to learn what exactly it was they do. And as soon as I found out what it was they did, I was like tripping out, like, yo, this is exactly the gate. Like, this is the way, this is what I want to do, you know? And so never really got around to interning with them. But I still keep in good contacts with them. But one day, Imminent surprisingly followed me on Instagram, and I saw what they did. And I was like, oh shit, this is fucking dope. So I straight up slid into their DMs, asked them if they were looking for an intern. I think I still have the message in my history.
Nice.
But Yeah, I just straight up DM'd them asking if they're looking for an intern, because not only was I looking for an internship to fulfill credits at USC, as soon as I got accepted and started taking classes there, um, not only was I looking for an internship just for the credits, I was looking for an internship that I knew that I wanted to be a part of in the career in the long run. And so they gave me the internship, got to meet Drew, Amish at the time as well. Yeah, got to meet Tara, really dope. And then was interning with them for about a year. And when I finished that internship, finished my career at USC, and then went on, graduated, and started working at Avalon Hollywood. Learned a couple of things at Avalon. Not my favorite venue to work at. No hate to Avalon, but it was. I definitely got some stuff to. So, I'll definitely learn some shit from there. And yeah, no. One day, Drew gives me a ring, and asking if I wanted to TM for 12 Planet, and I was like shocked. I was like, hell yeah, man, I want to do it. It's like, cool. He also is going to start. We were in the process of creating this like time coded audio visual experience for 12 Planet now, trying to kind of go the Excision route. And from then on, I was designing all of 12 Planet's visuals, which literally just finding a bunch of shit on the internet, memes, weird ass like vines at the time, all that sort of stuff, and just matching it together, singing it to the music, making it look dope. And from there, it sort of developed into what it is now that you see in the Squamplex audiovisual experience. But yeah, no, that was sort of the gateway into what I'm doing now for Imminent and for Drew. Just that's sort of how it all kind of started, and where it ended up. Like before then, I was as soon as I learned about Production Club around 19 or 20 years old, that's when I started VJing and really sort of like teaching myself while also like going on YouTube, finding tutorials. And then the gang at Imminent, they were helping me out on a couple of tricks as well. A couple of other people I appreciate for some of the tips as well for creating my workflow with Resolume so much easier. But yeah, man, that's sort of how I really sort of got into VJing, you know?
Yeah. Nice. All right. So you see Production Club, you start learning how to VJ. You mentioned YouTube and things like that. Like, how did you? Are there any other like resources, or like how did you learn how to do that stuff? Aside, like, did you just practice it? Did you find any tutorials? Like, what were you doing?
So I actually would rewatch like live shows and try to recreate certain effects I would see on the video walls with using Resolume. I'd literally just play with all the effects and try to recreate what I saw. And by learning how to recreate certain things, I was also able to create my own sort of style when it came to VJing. With YouTube, there was a couple of tutorials, not so much at the time. Resolume was still a competitor with MadMapper, but
Yeah.
yeah, as the software developed, I started getting more and more into it. The advanced output and mapping and slicing and like pixel maps, that was the biggest challenge for me at the time. But actually learning from Drew, he's taught me a lot of ways to cheat, hack, and also just make my workflow so much easier and more efficient when it comes to that side of Resolume. Then I do a lot of, because I mean, as you mentioned before, I produce a lot of techno, and so I try to invoke that in my visuals as well. So one thing a lot of people hate is strobes, but I absolutely fucking love strobes, man. I absolutely love it. And techno is nothing but strobe. Literally, you can have a white wall and just flash it, and it'll still look pretty freaking dope in my opinion. Just strobe for like 4 hours straight at and after. But no, there's this trick that Drew learned from this other VJ named Octaform, who's super huge in like the techno world. And yeah, I just learned tricks from Octaform and from what Drew learned from Octaform. And yeah, it's pretty much just like I said, it's all about recreating something you saw and just taking the time to just being persistent and taking the time to recreate those things, it's really been a huge help to me, because then you find different ways of how to create that same effect in an easier manner than having to overlay so much shit on top of it. It's all about just making your work much more efficient. And that's sort of how I've gone about creating my show file as well. I've given my show file to a lot of people, and a lot of people really like the efficiency of it and how it's laid out with groups, layers, and columns. And yeah, no, it's just made me a much better VJ, just learning from a lot of mentors and people I've watched, and just recreating what they do and applying my own style to it.
That's awesome. That's a really cool way to think about it. Just like watch something, try to do it, and discover, your accidental own techniques along the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of happy accidents there. That's for
Yeah.
damn sure. Yeah, I have another nickname is VJ Bob Ross,
Yeah.
but that's there's a lot of, not only because of the happy accidents, but also because I carry this big ass brush to like brush off, because I do all the raisins at the NOS, and it's dusty as hell over there. So I have this big ass paintbrush that I bought. It's bigger than the LDs, and the LDs always carry a paintbrush to brush off their console, but mine's like super massive. It's just, so that's where that sort of thing came from. It's just VJ Bob Ross now. So like,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
I'll retake the intro so I can add that in there.
I definitely got to get this. Yeah, I definitely have to get that Instagram handle, VJ Bob Ross, at some point.
Start playing with a curly afro wig.
I'm pretty sure it's not that difficult to find. My hair, I mean, there's a reason why I'm wearing the hat. Like, my hair is grown like so fucking much, I can't control it anymore.
Just do it all natural.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, it's straight up all over the place.
Well, oh yeah, there you go.
Well, the hat's pushing it back, but yeah, man, it's crazy in the morning. But anyways, yeah.
So I want to rewind just a little bit back to you said, I think your first your first gig in this industry was at Avalon. Is that true?
No, actually, that was my first, like, I guess you could say, like, full-time job,
okay.
Being a video tech as well as house VJ for Avalon. But before that, I was DJing like underground events, warehouse parties, a couple of like mid-level shows here and there, but very, very, very rare. But nice. My whole scene was in the underground scene, where I sort of like developed my love for techno as well. So that's sort of how it all started. But Avalon was like my main consistent gig.
Okay, nice. And how did you get those first jobs at those like underground shows or things like that? And how did you turn that into the gig at Avalon?
So with the underground shows, it's really just going to these events, partying, having a good time, but then also getting to meet the promoters, the people who are putting on the events. Sometimes whoever's controlling the lights, I'll go talk to him. Sometimes there's a security guard who was cool enough to like tell me the name of the person hosting it, and I'll look into the person, finding them on Facebook or Instagram, and just DMing them and asking them if they're willing to let me, bring my own setup. I'm not bring my own setup and just run visuals the whole night. Sometimes I wouldn't even charge them really. And I mean, there's times when you're starting out, there's times where you're gonna just sadly straight up just do some shit for free, but all for the love of getting that connection. So a lot of connections through USC, the friends I made there, but then also a lot of connections through just the events I attend and getting to meet the people who host them and meeting people there and just, communicating with them, staying in contact with them. And anytime they have an event, I literally bring a long throw projector and do whatever the hell I think is cool. Pretty much how I started out. And then from there on, Avalon, like I knew straight out of college, I knew I was going to need some form of income. And I figured might as well start off in the nightclub scene, get my hands dirty, start off as a stagehand, video tech, VJ. So for that job, I literally just like straight up applied. The production manager, the house manager, and all that stuff. And came in there with suit and tie, did literally asked me like, "Wow, you're the only person, or not the only, but one of the very few people who come here applied as a stagehand in a full suit and tie, when most of them just wear straight black." And I was like, honestly, I could have, if I got the memo, I would have just worn straight black. But
It's awesome.
I always do already. So I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't make a difference, you know?
That's funny. I actually did for my first job. It was at an ad agency, but I wore a full like suit and tie also, just like crazy overdressed. And then
Yeah,
you like take a tour of the office. Everybody's wearing like t-shirt and jeans, especially like the design team.
yeah,
And but you know, stood out because some
yeah.
people show
No,
up
they
to an
appreciate
interview in
that.
a t-shirt and they're like, you know, they're gonna remember the guy that shows up dressed up, and it's, you know, it's better than the alternative. I figured like
Yeah,
might as
yeah,
well show up looking fresh.
yeah. No, exactly. That was the whole. I think that was the last time I wore a suit.
Yeah.
I haven't worn a suit in a long ass time, man. But yeah, no, yeah, it's better to stand out that way than stand out as a dude who came in with a tank top and jeans. Then,
Yeah.
so yeah, but it's all about those tiny little details that really stand out. And also, just straight up setting up informational interviews with people to, you know, just get to know them and just keep as a contact. And then also after the job interview, I sent a handwritten letter to the person who interviewed me, and they also remember that as well. It really is a game changer. Most people do like a follow up email, but one thing I learned at USC, one of my old professors, Ken Lopez, he told me, yeah, no, people will keep a handwritten letter, and sometimes they'll just toss it in a drawer. And a year later, when they see they're cleaning out the drawer or something, they run into the letter and read it. And it's like, oh, this guy, I remember him, as opposed to like being in an email chain and it disappearing after like 100 emails. You never see it again, you know?
Yeah.
So it's those small things that really make a difference and really help my career as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great little tip. Um, so then I'm just going to keep moving along the timeline, and the imminent thing you mentioned started. Was it, did you start with imminent for the 12 planet tour, or had you been working with him before that?
With
Like
Imminent or with
the,
12 Planet?
with the imminent, how did
So,
the starting with imminent happen?
so with Imminent, um, they followed me on Instagram. That whole story, I DM'd them, got the internship with them for a year. That was back in 2016. And then after my year with internship with them ended, I still kept in good contacts with the Imminent team. And every now and then they would hit me up to do like a VJ gig or like a production assistant gig or something like that. Anywhere where they could apply me and I could still continue learning from them. You know, I
Mhm.
was literally just out there chasing gigs, just trying to get more and more contacts, getting more and more experiences, more and more on my resume. And then that's that stood out with the Imminent team. In 2018, I believe I graduated. I can't remember when I graduated. I think it was 2018. I think I was at Avalon after graduating for about 6 months, and that's like in the middle of a gig. Drew hits me up asking if I wanted to TM for 12 Planet and do his visuals. I'm like, hell yeah, man. Because while I was interning at Imminent, I also did a lot of like editing and a lot on Premiere and not so much After Effects, but a lot of Premiere stuff. And he saw my workflow. He was really impressed by it, and he hit me back up to do the editing for John's visuals, and that sort of stemmed to what it is now. Really, it's fully 3D animated audiovisual experience now. So that's sort of how it went about with Imminent. Really, it's just keeping good contacts, um, always going above and beyond when like you're interning or even just when you're getting hired by them to do anything. It's pretty much just trying to give the most as possible, you know. I'm sure you can attest to that as well.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that this is probably around when we met, because I moved out here at the end of 2017 and started working with Imminent pretty much right when I moved out here. Um, and yeah, so it must have been like that next. You might have been in and out of the office at the end of
Yeah.
that year, or like around like March, sometime beginning, probably like end of your graduating semester. You were
Yeah.
coming in the office and getting ready for that first tour. I remember that
Yeah.
tour. It was that was a wild one, huh?
Five dubstep DJs on a bus in the Northeast in February.
Yeah.
It, it was definitely something else, man. It's my
Yeah.
first time ever experiencing below zero weather, man. It was, I think the coldest I experienced was in Iowa City. I think it was -18.
Wow. Yeah.
It was literally the day after somebody had just died from hypothermia, having to go to class because it's a college campus. I think it's a college like town, Iowa
Yeah.
City. So, um, yeah,
Wow.
some kid was walking to class, and that was the day before, and it was kind of scary.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
man. Yeah, I've never experienced temperatures like that, and I grew up in the Northeast. That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Midwest is like next level. Like that whole like
yeah.
Iowa, Minnesota area is like
Oh yeah,
too cold. No, thank
yeah.
you.
What
Um,
I yeah.
no, go ahead. What?
No, I was gonna say, like, would I ever do that tour again? Hell yeah, I would. Knowing what I know now, I definitely would. However, I prefer fly dates over a bus tour at this point
Yeah,
because a bus you're just so crammed together, and when it's a fully stacked bus, everybody's living from there. You gotta kind of like live with those people for 6 weeks, and you know you'll butt heads every now and then. It
yeah.
happens.
I can imagine.
It's just a matter of coexisting.
Yeah, yeah. That many people in such a small space for that long with no sleep and these long nights and everything. It's got to be pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
And you get to be the babysitter, so that's got to be fun.
Yeah, that's the TM, man. I have a lot of respect for tour managers after that gig did. What they have to do, shit, man. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah,
Much love to them.
yeah, definitely. Um, that's amazing. Let's see, where am I at here? Um, so you mentioned it sort of in between, like end of college, going into the imminent days. You were just like chasing a bunch of gigs, trying to stay busy with stuff. Um, how do you find gigs as a VJ or as a video editor, or whatever you were doing at that time? And then nowadays, how much of your work is through a studio versus sort of on your own through your own relationships? And like, what are your thoughts on that, or what are the pros and cons to those two ways of working?
So I have an exclusive contract with Imminent. So most of the gigs that I get are usually through them. Or if somebody wants to book me for something, I have to connect them through Imminent and then they deal with all the admin stuff. I do the gig. I usually get my rate through Imminent, all that stuff. Everything is strictly through Imminent, with the exception of a couple of other individual gigs, so long as it doesn't interfere with my schedule with Imminent. So, for example, Alan Walker is one of my clients. Um, that gig I got through an old friend of mine from USC, who would LD for them, and every time Alan Walker was up in North America, they would always hit me up to do it because the LD, his name's Landon Fleshman. Um, he's the one who got me the gig with them. And he's also a VJ LD. He LDs for Wallows, I believe, as well as VJing every now and then. Not quite sure what he's up to nowadays, but yeah, any gigs like that where it's strictly like with a friend of mine. And Alan Walker's team, they weren't really looking for like a specific studio to hire to VJ for them. They were just looking for someone just straight up just VJ, independent contractor. That's it. That whole situation, when it's something like that, I always try to make sure that my schedule with Imminent never conflicts with an isolated show or tour or something like that. So I always have to be in constant communication with their team while with Imminent team, just make sure everything is lining up all right. And there's no conflicts between scheduling as well as anything contractual that I have with them. That's usually how it goes with me. Yeah, now that I'm exclusively with them. So yeah, I like it. They kept me busy through all of quarantine. During the week, doing Insomniac live stream shoots over. Well, I can't disclose the studio where it happens, which, well, I'm sure, well, everybody knows where it happens, judging by, if you're from LA, you know where it happens. But yeah, if you've seen the live streams, you know where it happens. But on the weekends, I'm at Nas doing the park and raves with Insomniac. So that's all still through Imminent. They're not hiring me. So yeah, everything goes through them. And then, yeah, that's kind of how I got the title as Busiest VJ of 2020. Literally, as soon as everything shut down, Insomniac started doing live streams and they needed a VJ. They hit up Drew, and so he sent me. And now I do almost all of them, with the exception of a few. Because every now and then my schedule with the live stream will conflict with the park and rave. So then coworker Jake, he'll cover for me in any situations like that. So yeah, they just keep me busy. I like it. It's a lot of fun. And then I'm glad I'm still able to work during these trying times, you know? So yeah, huge love and huge appreciation for everything they do for me. So yeah, man.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Major shout out to Imminent. I hopefully will have Drew on one of these in the future.
Hopefully, man. I'd love to see that one.
Yeah, I mean, he puts a lot of people on and gives a lot of support. It's yeah, really great. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you kind of explained it a little bit, but Busiest VJ in 2020, how has that been like, and what do you think what do you think really contributed to being in that position? Like, I know Drew's a big part of that, putting you on that, but like, what are the contributing factors that put you in that position, or maybe even put Drew in that position to be able to keep you on a consistent gig like that? How does that work out?
So when I started out doing those gigs with Insomniac, they were doing live streams out of their headquarters over in Beverly Hills. But everything that I mentioned before about my level of musicality, all of my skill sets, just including having VJ for quite some time already and being very well versed in advanced outputting and pixel mapping and slicing and creating these different looks and designs and layouts for what the Insomniac team wanted from me as a VJ. I always tried to go above and beyond for them, as well as I have this thing where I say, where they ask me to do something, I never say yes or no. I always say, let me see what I could do. Because even in my head, if I know I can't do it, I might as well try and be on their good side. I was like, all right, he's going to try to figure it out, you know? He's going to try something. And 99% of the time, I always do end up doing something. It always ends up working out. But also just being very flexible and versatile in so many different aspects of in VJing for them has made me, I guess, a valuable asset for them. They're always hitting me up. So like, yeah, we want RAUXRAUX to like do this shot, or like, yo, RAUXRAUX killed this thing, or like, yo, the DJ wants to know who the hell was doing the visuals. They were freaking sick, man. So another contributing factor to that is also show control. So shout out to TC Supply. I've been using show control even before quarantine has started. I'm sure a lot of people canceled their subscriptions for that stuff because they weren't using it anymore, no longer on tours and stuff for a whole year. But no, I kept that subscription, and every time, everywhere I go, any gig I do, I always ask them, hey, can you have a Cat 6 line for me going from the network hub from the CDJs to where my position is going to be, because I like using that as a cheat sheet to know what the DJ is about to do. So it makes my timing just that much better. So I'm hitting every cue. Every now and then they'll try to fake me out, but I do my best to catch it because I'm able to see the waveforms and everything there. And also just having all the tools and just investing on a lot of tools necessary to make me a much better VJ. And sometimes even bringing my own gear to the gigs as opposed to relying on the company to provide all the gear for me. I try to go above and beyond on that as well, building my own gear to operate these gigs for Insomniac. And I feel like that helped out a lot more. That's what's kept me consistent on the gig. Then also lately we've been applying a lot of notch blocks onto these Insomniac, like primarily the virtual Rabathons. We've been applying a lot of notch scenes into that. And buddy Marchi has been designing a lot of them, but he has me operating them. And just being able to just understanding some of the basic in and outs of that program, of that software, it also allows me to, like spout NDIing back and forth. It's all about signal flow, all that stuff, learning all about that, seeing how the notch blocks function, and VJing Resolume while at the same time VJing notch, as I'm sure you're aware we've done for a couple of rolling louds. Just being able to multitask and learn those ins and outs of those programs has kept me consistent on these gigs, because they're aware that I'm able to operate these different programs to create the concept that they want to apply to their shows.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I keep these gigs going. I always try to be as versatile and flexible for them, as well as every time I try to apply something new to these shows, because shoot, I've probably done over 100 live streams now for Insomniac, but every show I try to whip out something new. I always try to stay creative, try to stay spontaneous with my content. So yeah, that's sort of how I've been able to keep consistent with Insomniac. And yeah,
that's awesome. That's a killer tip. The using show control for not a time coded gig, what I mean? Like just to spy on the DJ, and being a DJ and producer yourself, and understanding music structure, but also from that perspective, so you could like spy on the waveform and know what's coming and see what they're queuing up next, and kind of anticipate things even more, and using the technology to your advantage that way. And like then you have all that data too, which I'm sure you can feed into different things and stuff like that. Like that's that's really smart. And I learned that as well. Learning as much software as you can that's like tangential to what you already know. It keeps you creative, gives you more options, and allows you to be flexible, in case something crazy comes up, like global pandemic. I was a Cinema 4D artist for so long, making renders and things like that, and started getting into notch in real time and understanding VJing and things like that. Which allowed me to, essentially fake it till I make it and say, yeah, I know Unreal. I can use disguise, like it's basically, that's basically notch and Resolume, but like different, and like the kind of just pivot into a new area really easily, and then combine all of those things again and create new effect. I'm VJing into Unreal scenes or into notch scenes and piping not, it's like you could start using them all together and get really crazy. Epic, man. That's really cool. Are there any other tools that you didn't mention in that you're using or excited about these days?
Well, I'm excited to dive in more into Notch and seeing what I could do on that, because seeing Marchie's blocks and seeing how he builds his shows or builds these creative like animations, it's just so insane. So anytime he sends me a Notch block for one of the virtual Ravathons, I always like, as soon as the show's over, I still go back to it and I look into it and see how he programmed, how he linked everything together, how everything's functioning. I try to learn by literally just observing and recreating what they do. And I'm excited to dive more into that. And also, I don't know, man. TC supply, show control, that's been one of my biggest tools for this. And now that they're currently developing something that functions with the CDJ 3000 and the V10, should be a lot more versatile with the new gear by Pioneer. And then, yeah, pretty much just I've just been learning more of the Adobe Creative Cloud, all the programs there. Just been diving more into After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator. When it comes to creating my own music, I also create my own visuals for it. I'm coming up with a live stream pretty soon. I'm developing all the visuals for that. They're technically all time coded. So just having an understanding of all that allows me to be just a better VJ and as well a better artist. And then, you know, just slowly building up my little machine here with all the new gear, like the 3000 series RTXs, new motherboards, Threadrippers, like all that stuff, man. It's an expensive and constantly evolving world of technology that I'm looking forward to. I'm still in the hunt for a 3090 graphics card. So if you find one, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Man. I need to upgrade, but it's like it's so hard hard to track one of those down.
Oh yeah, man.
One day. I heard the 3080 TIs should be coming soonish, and those are going to be pretty gnarly too. So if they release more than 4 units for the whole world, then maybe we can get our hands on one of those.
Yeah, man. I heard they should be more powerful than dual 2080 Ti's, from what I understand. So, yeah, just getting my hands on one of those, I'll be happy even at 3080 Ti. Really.
Yeah, that's anything, please.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll be on the hunt for them. Eddie's actually been Eddie's been helping me out with finding some too. So
yeah, he's on that Discord tip and like all that. He's got bots and shit. He's crazy.
Yeah, man. It's an interesting one.
He was giving me investing advice on our chat last week. So
yeah, man. I'm actually really interested in the NTF work right now that's happening. Those blockchains. Eddie's actually been hitting me up about, yo, let's create some shit. I'm like, hell yeah, all right, I'm down. He's like, yeah, man, I'll create the art, the visual, you create the audio. I'm like, I'm down, man. Just tell me what the concept you're looking for. Yeah. So we're currently in the works on a couple of art pieces. So looking forward to that.
Nice. Yeah. When those are out, the link in the description. We'll get that. Yeah. We'll hook that up.
Oh yeah, man.
Any crypto bazillionaires who are my subscribers, buy that shit.
Yeah, for real.
Hell yeah, man. Definitely, I'm excited about that stuff too. I'm working on a little bit. Hopefully drop something soon. We'll see how it goes. Let's see. For sort of final couple of questions on the gear tip, keep going on that a little bit. Favorite controllers you've been using lately? Got any any favorite MIDI devices, any hardware?
Yeah, man. So some of my favorite stuff, well, just a tip. For time coding stuff, I always like to have 2 audio interfaces, Focusrites primarily, just to be safe, because a lot of people like to rely on like an RCA cable via connection via USB with one Focusrite, and that's like a single channel out, and a lot of people encounter issues with that. So just a tip, as somebody who's dealt with this before, and a tip that I learned from Drew actually with his what we call the time machine, is just using dual interfaces, and it allows for dual channel passing, and allows you to switch between visuals without having to be on the same channel, left or right, so it allows for a smoother transition. So not always having dual audio interfaces. But then when it comes to MIDI controllers, right now I'm, rocking the standard APC 40 MK2.
Yeah.
But then also the MIDI Fighter 3D.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite ones. And then I'm also about to get the MIDI Twister. So it's the MIDI Fighter 3D's like brother that just it's all knobs as opposed to buttons. But I'm looking forward to getting that one pretty soon. But that's typically my setup. And then with the exception when it comes to like including the notch block in, I always have I forget what that one's called, but it has like 8 faders, a lot of knobs, like 3 rows of knobs. Shit, I forget what it is. It's not I don't think it's a Kai.
I forget. Novation?
Yeah, Novation XL. That's what it is. Yeah. So that's typically my standard MIDI controller for when it comes to VJing on Notch. But yeah, no, those are my controllers. They've worked for me for years, honestly. And MIDI Fighter I had for 3 years. The MK2, the APC 840, I've had. Well, I just bought a new one because mine has finally like died. It was the 4 years it lasted, and
it's pretty good.
Everything just started falling apart, and I was like, all right, it's time for a new one. So, but yeah, no, they last for quite some time, respectively. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the
Twister.
The Twister, yeah.
I love
and
those.
Also, yeah, man.
MIDI fighters are rugged as hell and so much fun to play with.
Like, yeah. The sensitivity on the buttons, you really don't have to press hard on it. That's my favorite thing, because one of my favorite things I like to do when it comes to producing as well, I do a lot of machine pad drumming. Mm-hmm. And so I apply that stuff to my VJing. And when the buttons don't require a lot of effort of pushing down on them, like being able to rapid button push, so just much more easier and a lot less work on your hands and fingers. Literally, I might have arthritis in like 5 more years. I don't know. We'll see.
Feel you, man. Too much time at the computer. But yeah, those arcade buttons, man. It's like you're just like Street Fighter.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, man. And then also what helps is a gaming controller, actually, because I like to program some of the effects on or just some commands on the additional mouse buttons. So like on the sides and on left and right, some of the buttons you use. So like, when you're playing Call of Duty, you have some of the stuff programmed on there. I have a lot of stuff on Resolve programmed to those buttons as well. So that's another thing. Yeah, it helps out. Every now and then, though, you might accidentally press one of those buttons, and it's just something to keep up. So sometimes you just want to set up like a strobe or a flash or something on those buttons. Never really something that will completely drastically change your whatever's happening on the screen. So
yeah, killer.
Yeah, man.
All right. Any last words, any like piece of advice or something you would give to somebody who's like trying to get into doing this type of work?
Yeah, man. Pretty much you just got to get your hands dirty, dude. Like, even if you're not getting paid every now and then, it sucks. You may know what your art is worth, but when you're starting out, it's going to be tough, considering how big the VJ world has grown. It's insane. It's gotten so much bigger. People who were just animators are now starting to VJ as well. So you have that whole industry of animation coming into the VJ side as well. So that's sometimes you just gotta do things that make you stand out, like wearing a suit to your interview. But also investing on gear that will make your workflow much more efficient. For example, like show control, it's only $100 a month, but at the same time, it's going to make you just that much better as a VJ, being able to hit every single cue. And if an artist wants to time code their visuals, you already have show control there as well. So there's no harm, no foul. You have it there as a cheat sheet for what the artist is going to play, but also if you need to sync visuals, it's right there for you. So yeah, no, literally just simplifying your workflow. Learn how to pixel map and advance output. If there's one thing you want to learn about Resloom, bushing buttons and moving faders and twisting knobs, That's the easy part. Dive into the advanced output first. That's my biggest recommendation. If you could advance output and increase that skill level, just pixel mapping, slicing, all that stuff. If you were to get Resolume, I'd suggest you learn that first and then start playing with effects and stuff, because the effects and all that stuff it's a lot easier. I highly recommend doing the advanced output side. And then comes the routing part, and that's an entirely different thing. But there's tutorials for that, so I'm not going to say anything else on that. Yeah, that's another thing. Go on YouTube, learn as much as you can from there. If you don't have like a mentor or somebody to talk to about that stuff, there's a lot of guides. And then on the Resolumes page as well, they have a whole section on tutorials and stuff like that. So yeah, those are my tips.
Nice. Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much. Where can people find more about you or more of your work? Where can they find you on the internet?
On the internet, you won't find me. Well, I guess Instagram it's kind of the internet. You can find me on Instagram, Rauro VJ. That's my VJ Instagram, and then my artist music Instagram handle is Rauro, which is RAUX. It's a long story behind that name. I won't get into it, but yeah, if you want to know, just straight up DM me. I'll tell you. It's an interesting story. But yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll save that little morsel for a little bit of suspense, and we'll put all the links down below. Yeah, thanks so much for coming and doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, man.
Awesome. All right, so that concludes our chat with RAUXRAUX. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe so you can come back for more videos. Peace.